This is the award-winning Lee Pitts Live.
The award-winning Lee Pitts Live is brought to you by Hodges University. Build the future you at Hodges University.
Southwest Florida, welcome to another edition of Lee Pitts Live on this Sunday morning here on Fox 4. We are sitting live in the American Legion Post 192, located in the heart of the city of Fort Myers, in the heart of the Dunbar community on Martin Luther King Boulevard. And we're so thrilled to bring you a town hall type meeting special here on Lee Pitts Live. There will be no commercials, so get your DVR running. We have the fabulous pleasure of having here in the studio the illustrious mayor of Fort Myers, Randy Henderson. We also get a chance to talk to Saeed, Kazemi, the city manager, and we're welcoming to our community Derrick Diggs, the new chief for the city of Fort Myers Police Department. Gentlemen, welcome to Lee Pitts Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to get all of you here. Our television audience are saying, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
All these type A personalities sitting in here. Before we get started though, I thought that we would do something special like this because of the urgency of the moment and how much publicity has been around, improving the city of Fort Myers as it relates to crime and moving forward. So we'll just kind of have a broad view, and in many cases, this will be the first time we had something like this on television. So I want to compliment Mayor Randy Henderson, who's been very instrumental in helping me pull this together. When I first approached him about this, there was no reluctance in coming on television. And I'm so pleased to meet you for the first time, second time, but
Pleasure's
I
mine.
have you on the TV show. And welcome to Fort Myers, Chief Diggs.
Thank you very much.
Chief Diggs, let's start with you. First of all, how long at this moment have you had boots on the ground walking around? I already see you at various community meetings already talking to the people.
Absolutely. This is starting my third week.
Third week. You living in the city of Fort Myers?
Absolutely.
Just a broad brush. What's been your assessment of the community in general?
It's a beautiful community. It's a great community. I've been welcomed like I've never been welcomed before. I love it here. I love calling the city my home.
Now, when you first took the job, applied for the job and all of this, did you realize it was how popular you were going to be? Did you realize this?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Mr. Pitts, I didn't think about that.
Okay.
I'm a cop that loves being in police work. I've been in police work going on almost 40 years, and this is what I do. So I don't look at it from that standpoint. I look at it as being a police chief that's having an opportunity to come to a great community and to help find a way to enhance the public safety for this community.
Now, Saeed, the city manager, there was a process to arrive at a new chief. And in that process, there was some committees that met and they voted on certain people. And then eventually you had the final decision. You made a management decision. You stuck up and was a leader in that. The committee did not select Chief Diggs as the person they wanted to be the chief. Why did you, as a manager, the boss of that particular decision, choose to go that route?
In the private interview that I had with him, he showed the charisma that he wants to come here and take the leadership and move the city forward. And I didn't get from anybody else. He was the only one who told me how he's going to do it and what he has planned. The rest of them says they will come and look at it and they'll make a decision. At that point, I decided he might be the person that I'm looking for. And I tell you something else. I went and I said that in the council. I wanted to go to Ohio and meet the police department. But I end up knowing some people in there. And I got connections with the people in Ohio, Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me a highest reference that I could even ask. Then that was blocked the point at the point that I decided he is the man that I wanted to come to the city of Fort Myers.
I want to say this on air. I was watching the process, reading about it. And when you made that decision, I got even more respect for you in terms of going with what you felt was best for the city. Oftentimes leaders have to make a decision. I respect that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we are sitting here in the heart of Dunbar community. Now, Dunbar community is not a strange place for you to move around. We're here at the American Legion.
Right.
For us to have this town hall type discussion here at the American Legion, how did that make you feel as the mayor of the city of Fort Myers?
Well, it made me feel encouraged and enthusiastic, Lee, because we have a new way forward. And I appreciate your characterization of Saeed Kazemi. He did demonstrate great leadership. And just to remind everyone, when Saeed brought them forward, it was 7-0 vote. It was a solid embracing of Chief Diggs and Saeed's choice.
That's the city council vote.
Correct. And so it is a feeling of encouragement, a feeling of doing better. As I look across Fort Myers, one of the things I've learned about Fort Myers and economic development is economic development can do a lot towards fighting crime and pushing it down. And you add on the competence that Chief Diggs offers in his background and Saeed's leadership, we have reason to be optimistic as we look forward.
And one of the things, I'm not quoting you exact words, but you said that, hey, this is a team effort. It's not a miracle. One person comes in and changes everything. Right. Speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the gratifying things is you have the team of law enforcement. You have the council coalescing around that. We're giving more resources in this upcoming budget. But what's gratifying is there are countless, endless citizens who are coming forward, agencies, faith-based organizations who are pulling for us, who want to help us finish this job out and making the city of Fort Myers safer and improving the quality of life. It is very gratifying.
Chief Diggs, right now as we sit here, what is your imprint on the police department right now? Are you like running things right now at this moment?
Yes, sir, I am.
Tell us about morale. What are you seeing inside?
Well, I think the officers are very enthusiastic. I think they want the change that's coming in. I've had staff meetings and let them know the direction that we're going and give them some information as far as where I see we're heading. They know that we've got to change the culture inside, and they know that I'm depending on us working with the community in a new way so that we can get the community to work with us instead of against us as we address some of the problems out there.
Okay. Going back to team effort, talk about team. You got a city manager, you got the mayor here. How do you visualize the team and their responsibilities?
I'm visualizing myself working collaboratively with the city manager, the mayor, and as well as other individuals, elected officials, appointed officials, other criminal justice officials, other social service officials, and other stakeholders in the community to work collaboratively to improve the public safety of this community. This is not just the police department coming out there, this is not the police department trying to run the show. If you believe in community-oriented policing, like I do, and has been successful in utilizing community-oriented policing, like I have, then community policing is not just about working and talking to folks in the neighborhood and collaborative with the citizens in the neighborhood. It's about working with various governmental entities, and we all work together to solve the problems of crime and the social conditions in the community. That's how we get overall crime to come down.
Already, I think you've been here a couple of 3 weeks, you told me, but I've already noticed that you've already been out talking to community-based organizations before you've been here a month. I mean, you're already out there. Is that something that's a part of you, that's where you want to be viewed as say, hey, I'm ready to get started day one?
I wanted to get started back when I was confirmed, but there's a process. But that's what I'm all about. And my policing strategies, number one, is getting out there in the community. I'm not from here, okay? So I've got to learn about things in the community. I got to have the folks that live here tell me about their community, tell me what they see as shortcomings in the police department, help me grow into this community very quickly so I can make sure I set the right direction for the police department. So I'm out there as much as I possibly can. If you saw my calendar right now, I'm surprised I can get out in the community as much as I have. But that's just not just me just coming in. Once I get settled in, once we start getting the direction that we need to get, you're going to see me out in the community. Once I get certified and everything else, I love going out in the community and doing police work. And you'll see me at all times of days and night in the community, working for the community.
It's good to hear. Saeed, oftentimes now, when we talk about crime in the city of Fort Myers, I'll come to you, Mr. Mayor, in a second, we seem to capsulize it with Dunbar. Bad thing, misconception. The city is a lot broader. It's a lot of work to be done all over the city. And there's a lot of good things happening all over the city as well.
It is. What I don't like to talk about Dunbar only, we are talking about the city of Fort Myers. We need to forget about, we are just talking about Dunbar. When we talk about the crime, it's in Dunbar, it's the city of Fort Myers problem. And that's what I like to hear. We need to talk about city of Fort Myers crime. We need to make sure this is going to solve by city of Fort Myers, but by everybody, not just the area in Dunbar. And that's what I like, and I want to make sure that everybody understands this. We are all in together here, the whole city of Fort Myers, not just Dunbar. And I don't believe people, they say they are from Dunbar. They are from Fort Myers. And Fort Myers is the place that we need to think about. And Dunbar is part of it. But we just don't have to just work on Dunbar. Dunbar is the area that we need to work more. But it's the city of Fort Myers issue. And we need to work together, all of us together, entire city together, to get this thing resolved.
Now, Mr. Mayor, the government, you're the government piece of the whole process.
Right.
What role do you think government plays in law enforcement, crime prevention? How much of a role can, say, a city council play in this?
Yeah. Well, I think that the way our council shows its role is through its actions. Any of our council members will be by the side of these gentlemen at any given moment, any given time. I spend a lot of my time in the community building these gentlemen up for the work that they're doing. Our role is one of policymaking. We are examining how we can do more, for example, financially, to support our law enforcement right now. That's a big issue, and we're adding headcount and we're adding cruisers, police cruisers, and resources. And on an interesting side note, I find myself being protective of Chief Diggs because he's coming into the city and everybody wants to see Chief Diggs. And I understand that, and they should, because he is a delightful person and he's a serious person. Mm-hmm. And he brings to the table a high level of competence that's going to help make Fort Myers greater. When I hear the term Dunbar, it's interesting. I have a positive reflection of Dunbar because I wasn't born here, I wasn't raised here. I've been here 37 years. But what I know about Dunbar and the broader region is that it produces outstanding youth. Mm-hmm. Outstanding youth. You look around the NBA, NFL, baseball, you're going to see the talent that's come out of this city. And as Saeed so rightfully said, they're from Fort Myers. And Dunbar is a community. Franklin Park's a community. Dean Park's a community. Edison's a community. Jefferson's a community. So we have multiple communities, but it's all Fort Myers.
And I want to emphasize, too, you mentioned sports because you were talking about the youth, but we also, Dunbar, City of Fort Myers produces great intellectuals, yes, academic people. Dunbar High School, mm-hmm, the only Microsoft certified school in the world, tech stuff. Yes. So I know you didn't mean to leave that out without adding that in because everybody's at home.
Thank you.
Lee, make sure you mention the academic.
Good, and we witnessed that last night, didn't we? We saw a lot of academics last night.
And I saw a smirk, a smile come out of you when I said academics. Go ahead and elaborate. You want to say something about academics.
Well, they both know that when it comes to our youth, I got a sensitive spot, in my heart for youth, because I believe that if you don't deal with the kids today, you have to deal with them tomorrow. So the reason I've even gotten into the police profession is because there was a moment in my youth where I had a chance to see my first African-American police officer. And that moment, and I'm not going to get into it, we'll talk about that when we go one-on-one on another show again. But that moment turned me totally around as far as what I want to do the rest of my life. This day, I can't tell you what class I took, what I had for lunch, or anything like that on that day, because he came to our school. But I can tell you one thing: When I left that classroom that day and walked home, there was only one thing I ever wanted to be, and that was a police officer. So I've always remembered that. And I look at things that when I deal with kids and when kids are having problems out there, I'm always looking at that time back when I was a kid and how much of an impression I can make on the future kids out there so that they can be the future Derrick Dix. They can be the future chiefs of the Fort Myers Police Department. They can be the future sheriff of Lee County. They can be the future law enforcement leaders in Southwest Florida. That's how I look at things. So I'm especially sensitive to our youth. Our youth are going through some tough times for a variety of reasons that's not made of their own. And I think it's part of a police department responsibility to support our youth in any way we can. And there'll be some initiatives coming out that we'll be working on to do that. So when I smiled, because I'm a former athlete, okay? And we always talk about athletes and everything else, athletics, and that's great. But we also got to make sure that we're doing the things structurally for our youth to make sure that academically they can succeed and so they can graduate.
Now, that was sterling. Saeed, I could tell when he was speaking, you were like, right on, man. As a city manager, let's stay on the youth for all practical purposes. What are some key components? We know we have the Stars complex. We have other recreational pieces. I believe recreation is big. I had a paper route when I was a little child. I grew up in public housing. My mom raised 7 kids by herself. The whole works. I'm not a menace to society, as we can see. But I got into sports early. Church, okay? I know that's not politically correct to talk about church, but that was a strong influence. And the appreciation for academics. But there was a job opportunity for me, that paper route. And I still say when my friends started getting into other mischievous things, drug dealing and things of that nature, I already had money in my pocket from my paper route that I had in the 6th grade. I was a paper boy. So that didn't attract me. I could have easily gotten into that. Go ahead and speak.
As Mayor said, we are working on economic developments. That creates jobs that this kids needs. I just want to go back and say about the youth. Our kids, my kids and Mayor kids, went to Dunbar.
Right.
Dunbar
Middle and
Dunbar
Middle.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dunbar Middle. And then that's where we did.
Really?
Yes,
That's
both
where
of
we
us.
met.
Yeah, both of my kids and all 3 of us kids went to Dunbar Middle. And that's how we know where Dunbar is. We know how it is. What we have done so far, we created the youth coalitions. And now, about the sports, we have Dunbar Little League. We didn't have this.
That's right.
Right now we have 140 kids. I was struggling to get 11 kids 2 years ago. But I'm proud to say we have 140 kids. We have footballs, 2 footballs, youth footballs, and they are over 100. These are all community got involved and created that. We were struggling to get one team to play with the Little League. Now we have 140 kids. And that is something that we are working, and I'm proud to say we are going to get there. The job, yes, that's one of the things that Mayor mentioned, that we need to bring more job here. We need to make sure these kids after high school, if they want to push them to the college, we want to bring the college closer. But if there is, everybody cannot go to the college. So there are some kids that they're going to be looking for a job. And that's what we are trying to create. And we are bringing the technology to the city of Fort Myers, and that's what we are working on, to make sure there are some tech. We want to call the city of Fort Myers a tech city. And that's the only thing left in this county that we need to bring. And we are working on to bring in technology to the city of Fort Myers. The kids needs job, and that's what we are working on, to create job.
Chief Diggs, let's assume we've got 3 pieces, right? We got the kids who are coming up, let's just say up to middle school. Then you got the high schoolers. Then you got the adults. And let's say the adults, that's the part that runs off like inventory. And let's just say, for discussion purposes, at the adult level, that's where we may have the pocket where problems exist. And the youth here are going to percolate up to the top later on. So if we develop this at the bottom to have the right type of attitude that would soften crime at the top, how do we fix the top that's already has not gone through, say, the proper process? Do you kind of see where I'm going?
I see where you're going with that. And let me address it this way. We have to make sure that when we are doing policing in our community, that we have to focus on all 3. We have to do things to focus on our K through 6. We have to do things to focus on our middle grades and our high school. At least we call them high schools. I'm not sure we call them down here. But we also have to focus on those adult criminals. But you don't use the same initiatives for all three. There's different things. At the K through 6, there's programs that we have to be working on with those kids. There's things we need to be working on with the middle school kids, because everyone knows those middle school kids, that's where they really get impressionable. Okay, we got to make sure that we have the right anti-gang information, the right anti-drug information and strategies to work on, because they're very impressionable, because they're looking at those high schoolers and everything else. And then we have to do things in high school. And then as adults, we got to make sure that we focus on putting the individuals that need to be taken off the streets. Those hardcore individuals that are beyond
That's
anything,
right.
we got to get them off the street legally, fairly, and impartially. But we also have to make sure that we use alternative methods to try to work with those individuals that not as bad, not as dangerous. And this is something else I want to tell you that some people may agree with, some people may not. We got to make sure that those individuals that has done the crime, done their time, and is back in the community, we can't shun those individuals. We've got to work with those individuals. We call that reentry. And we got to get those individuals that they've done their bit.
That's right.
We've got to inoculate them and get them back into the community in a way that they can be contributors to our communities and help lead some of these young folks who may be starting to go to the wrong direction, because they have a way of communicating with them. And we got to let them come back and be stakeholders in the community, provide jobs for them, or provide pathways so they can be educated, get jobs, training, so they can also contribute to this community. We can't shun them. We just can't say, hey, listen, okay, this guy's got a record, we don't know what to do. We got to bring them back, and there's ways to do that.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, when I think of you at the macro level.
Yes, sir.
Me and you, banker, macro, micro.
Yes,
okay. Now, how do you, as the city mayor, and I would say the most popular mayor in the city of Fort Myers since I've been around here doing what I do for 25 years.
Thank you.
How do you get down to the micro level, still focus on the macro level on what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
You got a larger responsibility than just crime. How do you keep your ears to that?
Lee, that's a great question. There's two ways I manage that process. One is through policy, listening to these gentlemen express to the council at large, including me, what their needs are. And then we manage the macro through policy. The way I like to operate as mayor, but more importantly as a human being, is I like to be involved with people. I like yesterday, for example, last night, I held a young teenage girl in my arms who is expressing concern over violence that's going on in the city. And I assured her that things were going to be all right. And there's no substitute for the human touch and reaching out and showing that kind of love and compassion. Chief Diggs talked about reentry. I'll tell you another thing that I've learned, and I didn't come into this 16 years ago knowing these things. I have learned them. And I've learned them through making observations. There's a thing called ban the box. Dr. Glover came to see me one day and said, Mayor, this is an impediment.
Mount Hermon Church, Pastor Glover, I'm plugging you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I said, Dr. Glover, he went into a long discussion about that. I said, Dr. Glover, thank you. This makes perfect sense. We need to ban the box. And it's what Chief Diggs was talking about. There are adults.
Ban the box was already taken care of before Chief Diggs hit the boots on the ground.
It was,
right.
To Dr. Glover's credit and others who coalesced around that. But what I love about that is that we're a nation, indeed a city, of second chances. Even third chances. We're compassionate. We have grace and dignity. And to spread that around in this way yields to us adults who've been there, done that, and they don't want to go back, and they want to help young people.
Tell briefly, oftentimes when something happens, hot spot, something happens randomly. I don't even want to get into specific cases and all that.
Yes, sir.
This is not that type of show. I say, okay, there's something else. Woke the mayor up at 3 o'clock in the morning. How are we, the city of Fort Myers, seen nationally now are we taking a large hit in terms of our pristine image? Because every time I say crime, it's like hard for me to say, because that used to rarely be the topic on Lee Pitts Live, emphasis around crime.
Yes, sir.
And I'll come to you on that too, Mr. City Manager. How are we okay nationally? What are we looking like?
Lee, the way I like to characterize that is we're going to be fine. We have suffered some temporary issues with an image that's been characterized about Fort Myers that I think has sent a wrong message. There is no way that we're naive about the things that have gone on in Fort Myers with regard to violent crime. We know that, and we're on it, and this man and this team right here are going to deal with it, and we have been dealing with it. I was gratified, for example, just recently where our cameras in downtown helped us identify a perpetrator. In this case, it was a thief. And measures that we have been taking are going to help demonstrate to the world that we're managing through this, that we're on it. And when misstatements are made, and the New York Times made a misstatement in a recent event, in less than 2 or 3 hours, I had a rebuttal up to them in New York. And before it could even be published the next day, before they even received my rebuttal, they had made their own correction to misstatements that had been made. So I think we have to fight that.
Okay.
We have to provide factual information that demonstrates our point of view in meaningful and reliable ways, and that's where we're going to be.
Okay. Saeed, you too, I could tell when we were saying crime, we're not used to saying crime as an issue. What do you like right now about the Fort Myers Police Department?
Today,
I'm
seeing some changes, and I'm looking for some changes, and that's what I'm hoping for to happen. Today, we have a great police department. Don't get me wrong. We have a great police department, and we are proud of them. But we need to do some changes. How we do the daily business. That's not my job. That's what we got the chief that we trust, and he's going to do that job. My job is to make sure that he gets all the resources that he needs. If I can provide to him whatever he needs in the short period of time, that's what we see. But Mr. Pitt, we just don't want to talk about past. We are hopeful for future. Whatever they know about the city of Fort Myers, good or bad at this point, we are hoping it's good. But we are going to show ourselves that we are the Fort Myers that everybody wants to be. We are going to be the Fort Myers that everybody know how Fort Myers was. And that's what we are going to get. Where we are today, what kind of an image we got, we think we have a good image. But let's just hope for the future. And that's what we wanted to do, some changes. And that's what we are going to do with some changes.
Okay, and I want Chief Diggs and you, Saeed, I want you guys to be calling me Lee, okay? I know y'all calling me Mr. Pitts and all that, okay? Let's end that. You're going to get my cell phone numbers, and I'm going to do everything I can on my television show to help the process along. That's my commitment. Now, Chief Diggs, I'm not going to get into what you like about it and what you don't like. I'm going to give you time to get your boots on the ground and assess things. But I do want you to expound on what is community policing, and I want you to defuse the misnomer that, hey, here's this new police chief coming in here. He's going to be knocking heads. He's going to be shooting. They're going to be locking up everybody. They're going to come around with the thing like we see on South Central with these big things where they break these doors down and helmets on and all that. Talk to me, man.
I'm surprised that that's the image I got. But no,
Sesame Street community policing, so I can understand. I hear that all the time.
Okay, well,
in your view, what is community policing?
And everyone has different views
That's
about
right.
it. But for me, community policing is where the police department works with the community, okay, to address crime and issues that's related to crime, and we work together in enhancing the public safety and reducing the crime in the community. It's not just about the crime; it's about some of the social problems that's also associated with crime. So, you know, it could be a program, it could be a philosophy, it could be an initiative, but it involves working with the community. Now, there's done several different ways, okay, and whether it means officers in our schools, which is something that I'm strong supportive of, that I've got to start working on, where it means that officers are in various neighborhoods, on foot patrol, on bike patrol, on motorcycles, engaging the community so that we mutually mutually work on addressing the crime problems or the problems that's associated with crime, underlying problems, so we can bring the crime down. It's not just us going in and the big terms now is being occupiers with the folks that live in the community, and so that the community knows that whatever we do as a police department, the citizens themselves are our ultimate responsibility. The citizens know that whatever we do, their health and safety is the utmost important. And
right. Stay right there. Southwest Florida. Be sure to join us next week for part 2 of this special, The Way Forward for the City of Fort Myers. We'll have these same gentlemen right here on Fox 4.
Community, opportunity, police, and service. Come join the team. Together, we can make a difference.
Congratulations to Lee Pitts Live, recipient of the NAACP Image Award.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.